Hello fellow modelers, Bruce here. My next build is going to be this Glurcraft line-side section house. They're kit number 430. Quite a simple kit, a rectangle with a peaked roof and a little addition that's a toolbox over on the right side. A few detail items that they include in the kit, and I think the focus of this build will be to talk about how, even on a small structure like this, some simple changes can really change the look of the model and make the model your own. And I'll give you those tips along the way, so follow along. Let's look at the diagrams a bit. There's the front of the structure. Got bigger doors here so you can get things in and out, including, I guess, in some applications you could have that for a rail car, hand car kind of thing, and a people door. And over here is that storage spot. It just has a box that has a hinged lid. Might model that open with some stuff showing inside. We'll see. This is that side view. It's got, the plans have 1, 2 on this side wall, 3, actually this is the rear wall, boarded up windows. So they have it planned that there are no open windows at all. And I'm thinking of altering that. Probably will not even bother, well, we'll see, but probably not even bother putting a window or anything else on the back wall. Nobody's going to see it the way I have it on my layout. And if anybody else ever wants to use this thing on their layout after I'm gone, many structures don't have windows in the back door wall. So yeah, I think I'll certainly board up one window to see what that looks like. So one of the side walls will be boarded up, and the other one I'm going to try to put a regular window in. So that sent me looking in my stash of stuff. And here's a sheet. Let me back out a little bit so you can see the whole thing. But here's a sheet of windows and doors from Rusty Stump Scale Models. Walt Gillespie, who owned Rusty Stumps, has closed shop now, but I used to work closely with him. I did test builds for him. I proofread all his manuals and so forth, and he used to send me extra stuff when his did a run of kits. So this was a sheet of doors and windows for his hardware seed and feed store, which I built and will be on my layout. So as you look at all these windows, what I wanted to do is get something that's about, doesn't have to be exact, but something that's about the same size as these boarded up windows. So what I did was simply took my dividers and kind of measured this window dimension, and then came over to his sheet and started looking at the various windows. That one is a bit taller and of course a lot narrower. This one is smaller. So we think we have here the mama bear window and the baby bear window, and then this one here is basically the same size. Excuse me, a little more rectangular than the one there, but not too bad, and there's the window frame for it. So I will probably use that window and put that window, cut an opening, and put that window in one of the side walls. So those are some beginning thoughts. The package, when you open it, has a sealed package that has the walls in it and some other siding material, sheet siding. It's got some strip wood in the box, and these are the roof panels, and these are white metal castings for a smoke jack and for hinges on the doors. Now, if you can see this picture, you can see the hinges on this larger door. You can see it on this picture too. And there's that smoke jack. So yeah, it should be a quick build. This roofing material looks very stable and very thin. They suggest you just put it on and paint it black. I might put Campbell shingles on this. We'll see. All right, so I'll come back when I start doing some of this work, cutting the window opening and staining the walls, and we'll take it from there. Talk to you again. All right, proceeding with the construction of the Glorcraft line-side section house in HO scale. I've laid out on this side wall, on the back side of that side wall, the window opening for the Rusty Stumps window that was the one I chose to be used in this build. And you can see if I take this laser cut window frame and lay it on top of my drawing that it's should be a tight fit. Once I cut the opening, it might require a little sanding, but better to be just the right size or a little small than too big. So I'm going to next cut that opening out. I like doing all this kind of work before assembling the walls. They actually have you assemble the walls first and then glue these, let's back out again, these window blanks, you know, the covered up window things in and so forth. Much easier to do when it's flat on your bench. So I'm going to do all that kind of work. Then brace the back, because some of this, especially the side walls, is very, very thin. It's going to warp when I start to put the stain and so forth on it. So I'll glue the doors on the other end and these windows. All do that while it's flat. Brace the back, then stain it, then assemble it. So yeah, I've already done a video that shows how I cut window openings into walls. But to review, and I'll put a link to that video either in the description or at the very end of the of this video. But I start by taking a pin vise with a decent diameter, something that'll fit in this corner, not too small. Drill a hole in each of the four corners, and then lightly start with my hobby knife with a number 11 blade here. Start slicing down each side carefully, small cuts from one hole to the next. And the reason for doing the holes is that your knife doesn't slip off the edge and cut the darn thing through. So then file it up if it's a little rough, and you're ready to assemble. So okay, I'll come back once I am ready to stain. I wonder what's under all those weights. Well, it was time for me to paint or stain all of the wood before I started to glue things together. Normally, that's the order I do things in, you know, paint or stain and then assemble. There are exceptions, but for the most part that's what I do. So I wanted this structure to look like unpainted wood. And you have a number of options, which some of you seen me do already. Alcohol and Black India ink is my most common go-to. But I knew I had back on the shelf a couple Micromark products. One was their Age It Easy Brown. Now they have Age It Easy Gray as well. I have used it, but for the most part I can achieve something very similar with my alcohol and India ink. So Age It Easy Brown and Micromark Railroad Tie and Bridge Stain, which was a darker brown looking more like creosote. So I dug those bottles off the shelf, and I hadn't used it probably for a couple of years before we moved from New Jersey, and certainly not in the 5+ years that we've been here in Michigan. And it had all the liquid had evaporated, which didn't surprise me with the tie stain because it was a probably down to about here, but the Aged Easy Brown was quite full. But anyway, all that was left were the solids on the bottom. Now, they do not make their mixes, their stains, with isopropyl alcohol. As a matter of fact, if you look on the back, you see a caution that says it contains orthodichlorobenzene and denatured alcohol. So those were the liquids that were in there, but there was no liquid left. So figured nothing to lose. I poured some 91% isopropyl alcohol in, stirred it a little bit, and rejuvenated it. And here on the darker stain, put some in, and just to get the grunge off the bottom of the bottle. And I mixed them together, and this is what I have. And that's what I used. I applied it to the wood with this flat brush. And this is a caution that I make, which is to put the weights on the back. And the reason I do that is as it dries, you get sometimes this discoloration from where the metal was resting on the wood. But they are well dry. They did not warp because I did wet both sides. And this is not a very dark stain, but I will show you its comparison. This is the strip wood. These are the doors and blanked in windows. I also did a couple of 2x6 strips that I want to use for corner trim. And I will compare that to unstained Mount Albert strip wood. So you can see it has given it a richer, more aged look. And of course I could age this later after I've assembled it with some chalks and so forth too. So yeah, I'm ready for assembly. This is the wall that I put I think I've shown you this one before, the wall that I opened up the window instead of just putting a window blank in, using that Rusty Stumps laser cut wood window. Came out pretty good. I still have to put some glazing in the window, and I'll do that after I've and put some bracing on the back of these walls. So brace the back of the walls, assemble the four walls. Before I even do that, I will probably put the doors on the front peaked wall. So I might actually stain this one again a little bit, just add a little stain to the bottom overnight tonight, because it has got some discoloration there. So put the trim around these doors, put the doors on, put the blank window coverings on the other walls, and then assemble them. So be back to you when I'm ready to do that. Okay, time for another quick update on the build of the Glorcraft speeder shed. As you can see, I have the two L-shaped assemblies ready here, and what I'm doing right now is adding some corner trim on each of these exposed corners. Not called for in the plans, but it hides the exposed edge of the end walls as you look at the side, and it's a very typical way when we build structures that we tidy up the corners. So adding some exterior trim. When you glue it on, you glue one wall first, trim it top and bottom to fit, and then on the second wall, on the front wall, once it's dry, you let it extend up the top so you can trim it to the angle of the peaked roof. So as soon as they're dry, I will do that. Then I will glue the two L's together, and you can see they fit rather nicely. I'm very tempted, and in the early days I used to try to glue both of those corners at the same time. Often it worked fine. Often I wished I didn't have to worry about two corners while the glue was drying. So now I typically just glue one corner, and when it's holds, I put the brace on the inside, as you can see in each of these corners here, and then I do the other corner. And there's really no trouble once you get all three corners to be able to pry this one apart enough just to get the glue down into the corner. Then glue it, brace it from the inside once it's tack dry. Then I will add the outside trim as I've done on these other corners. Then I will add my roof bracing in place, 2 on each side, and I'll be ready to put the floor in and put the roof on. In the meantime, I have built the little tool shed. Right now it looks like that. I added a floor to it, which was not called for. I've left the roof unglued, still trying to decide whether to glue it in an open position or in a closed position as the plans call for. We will decide that later. So yeah, that's it. The corner trim is one add-on that I've done. The other, of course, was putting a window in instead of just a blocked window as the plans called for. And the doors now have their hinges on. After it's assembled, I'll take care of the doorknobs and we make progress. Okay, talk to you again soon. Well, here we are, one step closer to completion. The building is all glued together. All the roof bracing is in place, and the floor is glued to the bottom, which will also look like it's sitting on a slab of concrete. And I have the Campbell shingles on one half of the roof done, and that will be going in place very soon. So finish the other side, probably finish up with a little bit of weathering and some final photos, and that'll be it for this build. So talk to you then. Alrighty, so this build is now done. When I started the kit in my first part of this video, I said to you that one of the focal points of the build would be to talk about some ways to make some simple changes on the kit to make the kit your own, the way I phrased it. So let's talk about some of those. Now, some of the changes I made as I was building this are internal. The way I did my bracing inside and did my roof supports, and I did a separate video on that, and I will put a link to that video at the very end of this video. But other exterior changes that I made included taking the blank window on the right-hand wall, cutting out an opening, using a Rusty Stumps window frame, and making it a real window. I did add a floor that was not included in the kit and made it thick enough and painted it gray so that it looks like a slab of concrete, so it's raised up a little bit off the ground at least, which when I plant this on the layout will help out. I put corner trim on each of the corners to hide the open raw wood of the front and the rear walls. And instead of just painting the subroof black, which was their suggestion, I put Campbell shingles on the roof. And I think we can all agree that the biggest change for sure in the overall look of this, therefore, is the roof. Instead of just having a painted, smooth, black painted roof, you now have Campbell shingles. So just a few changes, and you can proudly point those out to people who are coming as things that you altered on the kit, which I tend to do on almost every build. So I hope you enjoyed the build. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. It only takes you a few seconds and really does help out my channel in terms of its visibility to other modelers. And if you have not already done so, please subscribe to the channel. So that's it for now. I'll be talking to you again soon. And in the meantime, happy modeling.